You see, love is not always spoken. Words are fleeting, but actions, respect, and presence resonate on a deeper, unconscious level. Men, like all human beings, are wired to feel more than they verbalize. They notice subtle signals, energy, and patterns that often go unseen. Saying, "I love you," is powerful, but it is the daily acts, the understanding, and the emotional attunement that truly make a man feel cherished, respected, and deeply connected. It begins with acknowledgement. Men appreciate being seen not just for what they do, but for who they are at their core. Recognition of effort, resilience, and growth matters more than empty words. Support is another cornerstone. Standing beside him when he faces his fears, challenges, and uncertainties communicates a love far stronger than any declaration. Space is sacred. Men value freedom, the room to breathe, to make decisions, and to explore their inner worlds without judgment. It speaks volumes. A man feels the depth of connection when he knows he can rely on your integrity, your honesty, and your unwavering presence in times of vulnerability. Shared laughter, playful energy, and emotional intimacy also create bonds that transcend verbal expressions. Small gestures, a note, a touch, a smile carry, meaning that words often fail to convey. Respect for his passions and purpose fosters admiration, understanding, and a profound sense of partnership. Consistency, not grandiosity, builds enduring love. When he feels your patience, acceptance, and willingness to meet him where he is, love becomes a lived experience rather than a mere statement. Understanding his inner conflicts without trying to fix them, listening without judgment, and celebrating his victories without envy, these are the subtle ways men feel profoundly loved. Ultimately, love is a language of presence, energy, and conscious attention. It's expressed in actions, aligned intentions, and the courage to be emotionally available without demanding the same in return. Men may not always voice it, but they remember the moments when their soul felt truly seen, understood, and supported. In those quiet, everyday acts lies a depth of love that no words alone could ever match. That acknowledgement is one of the most powerful yet overlooked forms of love. Words like, "I love you," carry meaning, but they are fleeting. They can be said and forgotten, repeated without true understanding or depth. A man's soul, however, responds to recognition that transcends language, to being truly seen and understood at his core. This acknowledgement is not about superficial praise for achievements or empty compliments. It is about seeing the effort behind the effort, the unseen struggles, the quiet resilience that shapes him every day. It is about noticing what he gives without demanding, what he sacrifices without complaint, and what he silently carries within himself. When a man feels this kind of acknowledgement, it penetrates his unconscious mind in a way that words alone cannot, touching a place within him that longs for validation, not of ego, but of his essential being. Acknowledgement begins with observation. Many people hear, but few truly listen. To acknowledge a man is to notice the small things he does to show up in life, not just for others, but for himself. It is to notice the late nights spent solving problems, the efforts to provide security, the choices made to protect, nurture, or maintain his values even when no one is watching. These moments, often invisible to the casual observer, are the foundation of his identity and self-worth. When someone recognizes them, he feels understood at a level beyond words, as though his inner world has been seen, appreciated, and honored. This recognition validates his existence. In a deeply human way, it tells him that his life, his efforts, and his intentions are not invisible, that he matters not because of what he says he is, but because of what he quietly embodies. Acknowledgement also requires emotional presence. To truly acknowledge someone, one must engage with them consciously, without distraction, without rushing to offer advice or fix problems. It is the art of listening without judgment, of witnessing his vulnerabilities without fear, and of holding space for him to exist fully as he is. A man does not need constant affirmation. He needs the rare, authentic moments when another person sees him not for what he can do for them, but for who he is beneath the surface. In these moments, love is not spoken, it is experienced. His strength, his struggles, his triumphs, and his fears are mirrored back to him with understanding, and in that reflection, he feels a profound sense of connection and validation. The power of acknowledgement extends to the recognition of growth. Every man is on a journey, navigating the complexities of life, facing fears, confronting insecurities, and striving to become more whole. To notice his growth, even when it is slow or imperfect, is to honor the courage it takes to evolve. Celebrating his victories, whether big or small, demonstrates that someone sees the effort behind the progress. It communicates that his journey matters, that the person he's becoming is worthy of admiration and respect. This type of acknowledgement nourishes the soul, encouraging him to continue moving forward, not to impress or perform, but to live authentically and embrace his own unfolding. Acknowledgement over words also manifests in subtle, nonverbal forms. A touch, a smile, an attentive glance, or even the simple act of remembering the little details that matter to him carries immense weight. These small gestures communicate that he is valued and seen in the ordinary rhythms of life. They speak directly to his unconscious mind, bypassing the limitations of language and creating a sense of emotional resonance that words can rarely achieve. This is why men often respond more deeply to actions than declarations, to presence over poetry, to authenticity over dramatics. Acknowledgement is lived, not spoken. It is woven into the fabric of interactions, the pauses between conversations, and the attentiveness that signals, without words, I see you, I understand you, you matter. Finally, acknowledgement nurtures trust and intimacy. When a man feels truly seen, he is more likely to open his inner world, to share fears and vulnerabilities he otherwise keeps hidden. He knows that his authenticity will be met with understanding rather than judgment, and this safety allows love to deepen beyond superficial expression. Acknowledgement validates his experience, honors his choices, and affirms his intrinsic worth, creating a fertile ground where emotional connection can flourish naturally. Over time, this recognition becomes a language of its own, one that communicates care, respect, and enduring love without ever needing to be spoken aloud. In essence, acknowledgement is a profound act of presence, an offering of attention and understanding that penetrates to the core of a man's being. It is not about flattering or telling him what he wants to hear. It is about recognizing who he truly is, honoring the complexity of his efforts, and appreciating the subtle ways he shows up in life. While words may fade, acknowledgement lingers. It becomes a quiet, enduring current in the river of connection, one that sustains love, fosters growth, and nurtures intimacy in a way that no declaration alone could ever achieve. A man who experiences this kind of recognition does not merely feel loved, he feels seen, understood, and profoundly known in the deepest sense that purport. Through challenges is one of the most profound expressions of love, far more meaningful than mere words. A man's strength is often measured by his ability to endure, to face adversity, and to navigate life as obstacles. Yet, beneath the surface of resilience lies a deep human need to be understood, to have someone recognize the weight he carries, and to walk alongside him without judgment. Offering support during these moments does not mean fixing his problems or controlling outcomes. It means being present, holding space for his struggles, and affirming that he is not alone. True support communicates that his pain is seen, his efforts are acknowledged, and his journey matters, creating a bond that surpasses verbal expressions of love. Challenges test more than skill, they test character, patience, and emotional endurance. Men often feel an unspoken pressure to handle difficulties silently, to maintain composure even when they are fractured inside. In these moments, support becomes a sacred offering. It allows him to release the burden of appearing invulnerable, to acknowledge his fears and doubts without shame. When someone stands beside him in this way, it validates not only his experience but also his humanity. It tells him, without a single word, that he does not have to endure alone, that his struggle is worthy of recognition, and that his life is intertwined with someone who is willing to share the weight of reality with him. Support is not passive, it is active presence. It is listening attentively without the impulse to advise, to fix, or to interrupt. It is resisting the urge to minimize his experience or to compare it with your own challenges. A man's inner world is complex, filled with pressures, doubts, and fears he may never voice openly. To support him is to acknowledge this complexity, to hold space for him to process, to vent, or to simply exist without solutions. Is the understanding that sometimes the greatest act of love is to simply be there, allowing him to confront his challenges while feeling a steady, unwavering presence beside him. Support also requires empathy, a conscious effort to connect with his experience emotionally. It is not enough to recognize the external circumstances. one must engage with the emotional impact of those circumstances. Men often mask their vulnerability with strength, yet beneath that armor lies a need for understanding. By empathizing with his feelings, by reflecting them without judgment, support becomes a bridge that connects two inner worlds. It reassures him that his emotions are valid, that his fears are human, and that his courage is recognized. This type of support fosters trust, deepens emotional intimacy, and strengthens the relational bond in ways that simple words of encouragement cannot. Consistency is another key aspect of support. Challenges are rarely brief, and a single act of encouragement cannot substitute for enduring presence. To support a man is to remain steady over time, to offer patience when his frustrations emerge, to celebrate his small victories along the way, and to remind him of his strengths when he doubts himself. This unwavering presence communicates a profound message that love is not conditional upon his success or failure, and that his worth is not defined by outcomes, but by the effort and courage he invests in navigating life as storms. It is in these moments of consistency that love is lived and embodied, creating a foundation of security that allows him to take risks, confront fears, and grow. Support through challenges also involves recognizing the balance between independence and connection. Men often need the freedom to face their obstacles in their own way, to assert their autonomy and exercise problem-solving skills. True support honors this independence while offering a safety net, a reassurance that someone is there if the burden becomes too heavy, without imposing control or judgment. This balance communicates respect, fosters trust, and strengthens intimacy, because he knows he can rely on your presence without feeling pressured or constrained. Finally, support is transformative. It is not simply a reaction to difficulty, it shapes his experience of himself and of the relationship. A man who feels supported through challenges develops resilience not through isolation, but through connection. He learns that vulnerability is not weakness, that asking for help does not diminish strength, and that love is demonstrated in shared endurance rather than empty promises. Support through challenges teaches him that he is not alone, that he is valued, and that his journey is honored. It becomes a quiet, enduring language of love, one that surpasses any verbal declaration, because it is felt deeply in the heart and soul. In essence, support through challenges is an act of presence, empathy, and unwavering commitment. It is witnessing the struggle without judgment, offering care without controlling, and holding space without condition. It communicates a depth of love that transcends words, affirming that his life, his efforts, and his humanity are recognized and cherished. When a man experiences this kind of support, he does not merely feel comforted. He feels seen, validated, and profoundly connected in a way that reshapes his perception of love, strength, and partnership. It is the unspoken message that no matter what storms arise, he is never truly alone. And in that assurance, love becomes alive, enduring, and transformative. Freedom and space are essential gifts in any relationship. And for men, they are often more meaningful than the mere repetition of words like, I love you. True love is not possessive, and it does not confine or restrict the soul. It nurtures the individual while fostering connection. Men, like all humans, need the room to breathe, to explore, and to engage with the world and their inner lives on their own terms. This need is not a sign of detachment or lack of love. It is a fundamental aspect of their psychological and emotional well-being. To honor this need is to demonstrate respect, trust, and an understanding that love is not about control, but about the recognition of autonomy. Freedom begins with acknowledgement of individuality. Every man carries within him a complex inner world, dreams, passions, insecurities, and fears that are uniquely his own. Allowing him space means honoring that inner world, not attempting to dominate it or reshape it according to external expectations. It is recognizing that his thoughts, decisions, and experiences are his to navigate. This kind of respect communicates a profound trust in his ability to act, to grow, and to evolve. It reassures him that he is valued for who he is, not for what he does or how closely he conforms to another as desired. When a man feels this freedom, Love becomes a nourishing force rather than a restrictive obligation, and he experiences a sense of belonging that is rooted in respect rather than dependency. Space is also a form of emotional balance. Men often internalize pressures from society to perform, to succeed, and to maintain composure under stress. They carry responsibilities that can feel heavy, and the constant expectation to be available, to respond, or to conform can create strain. Offering space allows him to process these pressures, to reconnect with himself, and to replenish emotional reserves. It is the understanding that presence does not always require proximity, and that love can be expressed through support and patience rather than constant engagement. By allowing him room to exist independently, a partner communicates that trust and respect are foundational elements of the relationship, and that emotional connection is strengthened rather than weakened by temporary absence. Freedom also cultivates growth. When a man has the space to pursue his passions, to explore his potential, and to confront his fears, he is able to develop into the fullest version of himself. This growth benefits both partners because a relationship rooted in autonomy and mutual respect becomes a dynamic exchange rather than a static containment. He experiences the joy of self-expression without guilt or constraint, knowing that his choices are honored and his individuality is celebrated. In turn, the relationship thrives because it is built on authenticity rather than codependence. Men respond to freedom with gratitude and deeper emotional openness, understanding that love does not demand suppression of self, but encourages the flourishing of individuality within a shared life. Trust is inseparable from freedom and space. Allowing him autonomy signals confidence in his intentions and integrity. It communicates that you do not need to control, monitor, or manipulate to maintain closeness. You believe in the bond itself and in his capacity to honor it. This trust fosters psychological safety, creating an environment where vulnerability can emerge naturally. When a man feels safe to be himself without fear of judgment or restriction, he is more likely to share his thoughts, feelings, and dreams. Freedom is not absence. It is the conscious recognition that love is stronger when it is liberating rather than confining. Space also allows for reflection and perspective. Often benefit from moments of solitude to process experiences, understand emotions, and consider decisions without immediate external influence. This solitude nurtures clarity, self-awareness, and inner strength. By respecting this need, a partner demonstrates wisdom and emotional intelligence, recognizing that human connection is enhanced when both individuals are allowed to integrate their experiences internally. It communicates a love that is patient, mature, and attuned to the rhythms of personal growth, rather than impulsive or reactive. The gift of freedom is deeply intertwined with presence. Paradoxically, giving space does not mean emotional absence. It is a conscious choice to honor individuality while maintaining connection. It is the ability to engage fully when together, yet to withdraw respectfully when distance is needed. This balance allows love to breathe, to expand, and to manifest in authentic ways. Men experience this as a profound sense of acceptance that they are loved, not for what they are forced to be, but for who they are in the fullness of their individuality. Ultimately, freedom and space are expressions of respect, trust, and conscious love. They honor the human need for autonomy, support personal growth, and strengthen relational intimacy by allowing connection to flourish without restriction. Deeply appreciate the balance of closeness and independence, the ability to navigate life with the assurance that their choices and inner worlds are respected. When love is paired with freedom, it transforms from a static declaration into a living, breathing force that nurtures both individuals, creating a bond that is resilient, enduring, and profoundly meaningful. It is in this space, this careful dance of togetherness and independence, that men feel truly loved, understood, and empowered to be their authentic selves. Trust and reliability are the unseen pillars of love, the foundation upon which a man feels truly understood, secure, and valued. Words like "I love you" may be spoken easily, but without trust and consistency, they remain hollow. A man's heart and mind are wired to respond not to declarations, but to patterns of presence, integrity, and dependability. Trust is cultivated not through grand gestures or dramatic promises, but through the quiet, repeated demonstration that one is aligned in intention, committed in action, and unwavering in emotional support. When a man feels that he can rely on someone unconditionally, He experiences a freedom to be himself, to be vulnerable, and to grow without fear of judgment or abandonment. Trust is built through alignment between words and actions. Men instinctively notice when there is a gap between what is said and what is done. A single broken promise, an overlooked commitment, or inconsistency in behavior can plant seeds of doubt that quietly erode connection. On the other hand, consistent, reliable actions create a profound sense of safety. It tells him that your presence is not conditional, that your care does not fluctuate with circumstances, and that the bond between you is rooted in integrity rather than convenience. This reliability signals that his feelings, his needs, and his life journey are respected and honored. Trust, once established, becomes the lens through which every interaction is filtered, amplifying the emotional resonance of care, acknowledgement, and love. Reliability is also about being present in moments of vulnerability. Men do not always articulate their fears, insecurities, or struggles, but they feel when someone is truly there for them. To be reliable is to meet them in those moments, to offer support without judgment, to listen without rushing to fix or minimize, and to respond with empathy rather than impatience. It is in these moments of quiet dependability that love is most profoundly experienced, because it transcends performance or expectation. A man senses that he can take off the armor of stoicism, that his imperfections will be met with understanding, and that his inner world will be honored without fear of rejection. Consistency in reliability fosters deep emotional intimacy. Over time, small, repeated acts of integrity accumulate into a profound sense of trust. Remembering details, following through on commitments, honoring boundaries, and showing up emotionally even when it is inconvenient or challenging creates an invisible scaffolding of security. Men value this kind of steadfastness because it communicates that the relationship is not a fleeting or superficial connection, but a reliable space where they are seen, heard, and respected. They do not require constant verbal affirmation. They feel the love in the patterns, in the continuity of care, and in the predictability of your presence. Reliability also supports growth. When a man knows he can trust the people around him, he is free to explore, to take risks, and to confront the unknown aspects of himself without fear of abandonment. Trust provides the psychological and emotional safety necessary for transformation. A reliable partner becomes a mirror reflecting stability, integrity, and commitment, giving him the courage to step into his full potential. The relationship then becomes not a cage of expectations, but a fertile ground for personal and shared evolution. Love, in this context, is a living structure reinforced by actions that continuously validate and sustain the bond. Trust and reliability are deeply interconnected with honesty and transparency. Men appreciate authenticity more than theatrical expressions of affection. Being truthful, even when difficult, conveys respect and demonstrates that the relationship is a space where vulnerability and truth coexist. Reliability is not only about keeping promises, but about being consistent in character, values, and emotional presence. It communicates that your connection is not dependent on circumstances, moods, or convenience, but is grounded in conscious choice and moral alignment. This steadiness fosters a profound sense of security, allowing him to relax into the relationship without fear of manipulation, unpredictability, or betrayal. A man's perception of love is profoundly shaped by trust and reliability because these qualities touch his unconscious mind. They reassure him that he is safe to show up fully, to be emotionally open, and to engage deeply without fear of exploitation or inconsistency. The presence of trust allows love to be experienced as a living, breathing reality rather than an abstract concept. It becomes a felt sensation, a quiet assurance that he is valued, understood, and supported in the most fundamental way. Reliability amplifies this effect because repeated demonstration of care, follow-through, and consistency strengthens the relational bond and embeds a sense of permanence and stability. Ultimately, trust and reliability are not performative, they are lived. They are demonstrated in moments large and small, through integrity in action, alignment between intention and behavior, and steadfast emotional presence. A man who experiences this kind of love does not merely feel affection or attraction. He feels secure, empowered, and profoundly connected. Trust allows him to surrender the compulsion to control, to drop the guard of self-protection, and to embrace intimacy with confidence. Reliability affirms that the love he experiences is not fleeting or conditional, but an enduring, conscious, and transformative force. In this way, love becomes more than a statement. It becomes a lived experience reality that nurtures growth, intimacy, and emotional depth, creating a connection that words alone could never achieve. Play, intimacy, and small gestures are often underestimated in their power to communicate love. Yet for men, these are profound languages of connection that transcend words. Love is frequently measured in declarations, promises, and grandiose acts, but the heart responds more vividly to the subtle rhythms of everyday life. A playful laugh shared across a quiet room, a gentle touch on the shoulder, or the attentive noticing of small details can reach places that words cannot. Men, like all humans, crave recognition not only of who they are, but of the life they inhabit, the energy they bring, and the presence they maintain. Play and intimacy invite them into a space where vulnerability can exist without fear, where joy can be expressed without restraint, and where love is felt more than it is spoken. Play is not frivolous, it is the lifeblood of connection. In the midst of responsibility, pressure, and the demands of life, moments of play create breathing space for emotional and psychological rejuvenation. Men often carry unspoken burdens, expectations to perform, pressures to maintain composure, and silent struggles they rarely reveal. Play allows for release, a momentary dissolution of these pressures, and a reconnection with the vitality of life itself. A shared joke, a spontaneous adventure, or even a playful challenge conveys more than entertainment. It signals emotional safety, mutual trust, and a willingness to engage beyond the superficial. It tells him that love is not just an obligation, but an experience to be lived, felt, and celebrated together. Intimacy, in its deepest sense, is not limited to physical closeness. It encompasses emotional, psychological, and even spiritual dimensions. Men may not always articulate their need for closeness, but they respond profoundly when they sense someone is attuned to their inner world. Emotional intimacy is created through attentive listening, empathetic presence, and the courage to share one's own vulnerabilities. It is the unspoken acknowledgement that his thoughts, feelings, and dreams are valid and worthy of attention. Intimacy allows him to drop the armor of stoicism and experience authentic connection, not just as a partner, but as a human being seen and understood. The interplay between play and intimacy creates a dynamic balance. Joy softens the defenses, and vulnerability deepens the bond, forming a foundation for love that is alive, expansive, and enduring. Small gestures are the punctuation of this living language. They are the quiet moments that communicate attention, care, and understanding. A cup of coffee prepared just the way he likes it, a note left in his bag remembering a detail he casually mentioned, or a touch that conveys presence. Without demand, these gestures speak directly to the unconscious mind. Men often notice these subtleties more than the overt expressions of affection because they resonate with the lived reality of their daily existence. Small gestures signal attentiveness, consideration, and a willingness to participate in the ongoing narrative of his life. They are acts of love embedded in the ordinary, carrying weight far beyond their apparent simplicity. Play, intimacy, and small gestures together create a relational ecosystem that nurtures connection on multiple levels. Play invites spontaneity, emotional release, and shared joy. Intimacy fosters trust, vulnerability, and profound understanding. Small gestures reinforce attention, care, and recognition. When these three elements are integrated into a relationship, men feel deeply appreciated and loved, not because they are told so, but because they experience it in the rhythms of daily life. Love becomes embodied, not declared. It is a felt reality that permeates moments and interactions. These elements also cultivate emotional resilience. Life presents challenges, stressors, and uncertainties that can erode confidence and strain connection. Play offers relief, intimacy provides support, and small gestures convey consistent care, together creating a buffer against the emotional turbulence of existence. A man who experiences this trifecta does not merely survive the challenges of life, he thrives within the security, joy, and recognition provided by the relationship. These seemingly simple acts collectively communicate that love is active, attentive, and enduring, shaping his perception of emotional safety and relational depth. Moreover, this form of love nurtures authenticity. Often hide aspects of themselves out of fear of judgment or misunderstanding. Play creates a space for spontaneity and authenticity. Intimacy invites openness, and Small gestures communicate understanding without condition. Together, they form a framework in which he can be fully himself, knowing that the love he receives is not contingent on performance, appearance, or achievement. This authenticity strengthens the bond, allowing connection to flourish on a level deeper than superficial affection. Ultimately, play, intimacy, and small gestures are languages of love that bypass words, entering the realm of experience, emotion, and unconscious recognition. They communicate presence, care, and attention in ways that resonate more profoundly than declarations alone. Men appreciate these expressions because they affirm not only who they are, but also the life they inhabit, the energy they bring, and the authenticity they carry. Through playful engagement, intimate connection, and thoughtful attention to the details of daily life, love becomes living, breathing, and deeply felt. It is in these moments, often quiet, subtle, and easily overlooked, that a man truly experiences being valued, seen, and profoundly connected. That acceptance of inner complexity is one of the most profound ways to communicate love and understanding to a man. It is easy to love what is simple, convenient, or immediately comprehensible, but true connection arises when one embraces the depth, contradictions, and nuances of another's psyche. Every man carries within him layers of experience, emotion, and thought, some visible, some hidden, even from himself. These layers include fears, insecurities, desires, unresolved conflicts, and dreams that may not fit neatly into the expectations of the world. To accept him fully is to recognize and honor this complexity without judgment, without attempting to simplify or control it, and without demanding that he conform to a version that is comfortable for you. Acceptance communicates, in the most profound sense, that he is seen in his entirety and that his wholeness is enough. Men often feel pressure to present themselves as composed, capable, and unshakable. Societal expectations encourage them to conceal vulnerability, mask confusion, and resolve inner conflicts alone. Yet beneath this exterior lies rich in a world full of contradictions, impulses, and emotions that may seem unwieldy or chaotic. Acceptance means recognizing that these complexities are not flaws but integral parts of his humanity. It is understanding that the tension between strength and vulnerability, ambition and fear, pride and doubt forms the foundation of his character. By embracing this inner landscape, a partner communicates respect for his journey, patience for his process, and trust in his capacity to integrate his experiences over time. Acceptance also requires the capacity to hold space without judgment or urgency. Men may oscillate between confidence and self-doubt, decisiveness and hesitation, optimism and cynicism. To accept him fully is to resist the impulse to correct, to guide, or to insist upon consistency. It is to meet him where he is, acknowledging the full spectrum of his emotions and thoughts, and allowing him the freedom to navigate them authentically. This creates a psychological safety net, a relational environment in which he can explore, reflect, and reconcile his internal contradictions without fear of rejection or disapproval. In this space, love is experienced not as a conditional reward for behaving a certain way, but as a steady, enduring presence that honors his humanity. Understanding inner complexity also fosters empathy. When a partner recognizes that his emotions may be complicated, that his actions may be influenced by unconscious patterns, and that his behavior may sometimes confuse or frustrate, she responds with compassion rather than frustration. Acceptance does not demand understanding every motive immediately, but it does involve recognizing that his inner life is layered, dynamic, and worthy of attention. This perspective allows for patience, flexibility, and tolerance, and it strengthens the relational bond, because it communicates that he can be fully himself, even in moments of confusion or contradiction. Acceptance of inner complexity nurtures growth. Men are constantly evolving, confronting past wounds, exploring latent potentials, and negotiating the tension between who they are and who they aspire to become. When a partner honors this evolution rather than imposing rigid expectations, he feels supported in his journey. The recognition that he can change, fail, learn, and grow without losing connection fosters courage, resilience, and self-confidence. It communicates that love is not a static commodity, but a dynamic force that adapts to his authentic self as it unfolds over time. Small, conscious acts reinforce this acceptance. Listening without interruption, validating emotions without judgment, and acknowledging contradictions without impatience communicate a deep respect for the inner world he inhabits. Even silence, when shared in understanding, can serve as a powerful affirmation of acceptance. Man feels deeply loved when he realizes that he can reveal his thoughts, fears, and vulnerabilities without the pressure of being fixed, judged, or coerced into a version of himself that feels safe for others. These actions build trust, intimacy, and a sense of psychological safety that words alone cannot achieve. Ultimately, acceptance of inner complexity is an acknowledgement of the totality of a man's being. It embraces light and shadow, strength and vulnerability, certainty and doubt, harmony and contradiction. It communicates that his life, his struggles, and his psyche are honored in their entirety without the demand for simplification or perfection. This acceptance transforms love from a mere statement into a lived experience, a constant presence that validates and affirms him at the deepest levels. A man who experiences this form of love does not merely feel cared for. He feels understood, valued, and free to explore the richness of his inner world without fear. In essence, accepting a man as inner complexity allows him to be fully human, to engage authentically, and to grow within the safety of connection. It is a gift of patience, empathy, and presence, a demonstration of love that surpasses superficial declaration. When a partner embraces the intricate, sometimes contradictory layers of his mind and heart, she communicates that he is enough exactly as he is, and that love is not contingent on simplicity, predictability, or perfection. In this acceptance, trust deepens, intimacy flourishes, and the relationship becomes a sacred space where authenticity, growth, and profound connection are not only possible but celebrated. In the end, love is not measured by words alone, but by the depth of presence, understanding, and conscious care we bring into each moment. Men feel it in acknowledgement, in unwavering support, in the freedom to be themselves, in the trust that steadies them, and in the subtle gestures that speak louder than any declaration. Love is felt in the acceptance of complexity, the patience to witness growth, and the intimacy that turns ordinary moments into sacred connection. When we honor these truths, we create a love that is enduring, transformative, and alive, a love that is experienced in the soul rather than just spoken by the lips. Let us choose to live love in ways that are tangible, authentic, and profound, so that it resonates, not only in words, but in every heartbeat, every gesture, and every shared moment of life.